Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are really getting into the core architecture of human connection. I mean, if you want a relationship that lasts, not just survives, but actually thrives, is it about the grand design? Or is it about having a steady hand with the daily blueprints?
That's the perfect way to frame it.
So today we're diving into sources from counseling, psychology, and some, top relationship experts who really challenge the story Hollywood's been selling us for decades.
The supremacy of the grand gesture.
Exactly. The airport chase, the huge public declaration, that elaborate, expensive surprise. Our mission is to contrast that whole spectacle with the skill that actually builds authentic long-term intimacy. And that skill is, well, it's emotional vulnerability.
And the sources, I mean, they're unequivocal on this. These intermittent, high-drama spectacles, they just can't sustain a relationship over the long haul. They're all about external validation, not the internal work.
Right.
So we're going to unpack why having the courage to open up, to express your fears, your true self, why that is the genuine currency of the soul, and why it's so much more valuable than any extravagant choreographed display.
It sounds like we're comparing, I don't know, a thrilling but flimsy movie set to a sturdy, well-engineered foundation. So let's start with that foundation, intimacy. When people hear that word, I think most of us just jump to physical closeness.
We do.
But the research suggests it's so much more complex than that, right?
It is, yeah. While physical affection can absolutely be part of intimacy, true, authentic intimacy is this: profound, multidimensional sense of closeness and connection. And it's really important to note, you can have all the physical closeness in the world without the emotional connection.
And that's when a relationship starts to feel hollow.
Precisely. Over time, that's what happens.
So we're building a mosaic, not just a single tile. Our sources point to 5 key dimensions. We've got the obvious one, physical intimacy, so touch, closeness, comfort. And then there's emotional intimacy.
Which is really that cornerstone. It's about empathy, feeling safe enough to just express your reality without being judged for it.
Okay, and then there are the ones we maybe don't think about as much, like intellectual intimacy.
Right, which is just the freedom to safely exchange ideas.
Correct.
Even the bad ones or the half-baked ones, you know.
And experiential intimacy.
That's just the shared history, the adventures, the everyday moments, all those small memories you build together.
And the last one's spiritual intimacy. So that shared sense of purpose or being aligned on deeper beliefs and values. But what I found fascinating is that the sources didn't just list these, they highlighted which one is often the first to fail when things get stressful.
They did, and this is such a crucial insight. It's intellectual intimacy, just the safe exchange of thoughts. That's often the first casualty.
Really?
Yeah. Once you stop feeling safe enough to share your worries or even just your silly ideas, that intellectual disconnection is a huge predictor of physical and emotional disconnection coming right after.
Wow. And the material you need to connect all those dimensions is emotional vulnerability, or EV. So how do we define that?
Well, put simply, EV is the active skill of choosing to acknowledge and express those difficult emotions.
Sadness, shame, anxiety.
All of them.
Yeah.
Frustration. Instead of just immediately avoiding them or, burying them, it's not about wallowing.
It's about acknowledging.
Exactly. You just turn to your partner and say, you know what? I feel pretty rotten right now. And you actually name the feeling.
So why is that simple act so incredibly hard? Why do we put on so much armor?
Because the risk feels profound. We are fundamentally wired to avoid emotional pain. The sources point to these really common, powerful fears. Fear of rejection, of judgment.
The fear that you'll be seen as weak or just a burden.
Yes. And then there's the very real experience of the vulnerability hangover.
The hangover. Oh, that feeling of shame that just washes over you after you think you've overshared or you get rejected.
Precisely that.
Yeah.
It's the regret you feel after taking that emotional risk. And for a lot of people, especially those who really value control, vulnerability means giving up certainty. And that's uncomfortable. This is especially true given how society conditions us to hide emotion for self-protection.
Yeah.
That armor feels like survival gear.
So if the risk is that high, the reward has to be worth it. The sources basically position EV as the single most important ingredient for lasting trust. They call it the social currency that moves a relationship beyond just transactional politeness.
Because it is a trust mechanism. When one person makes a risky disclosure, when they open up about something that's painful, they are, in a way, setting up a psychological litmus test.
A test of their partner's trustworthiness.
Yes. And this creates what the researchers call the vulnerability reciprocity loop.
Okay, let's break that down. So I risk sending a signal. My partner responds without judgment. And that encourages them to reciprocate, which ultimately makes the bond stronger. It's like we're climbing a wall together, holding the rope for each other.
That's a perfect analogy. And the outcome of proving that trust again and again is psychological safety. It's an environment where honesty is actually welcomed, not punished. And that's where partners feel safe enough to admit mistakes, to fail, and to build resilience together.
And what does that do to our internal alarm system? The experts talk about how avoiding emotions basically trains our brain for panic.
It really does.
Yeah.
If you habitually avoid painful emotions, if you're constantly shutting down sadness or anger, you are training your brain's threat detection system to believe that feeling bad is dangerous.
You're shouting red alert inside your own head.
You are, and that leads to chronic anxiety to hypervigilance.
So the antidote isn't to avoid the feeling, it's to acknowledge it. Just by saying, I am feeling frustrated right now, you send a totally new message to your brain.
A message that says difficult emotions are painful, yes, but crucially, they are not dangerous to the relationship.
And this brings us right to the neurochemistry of it all. Let's think about grand gestures again, the thrill of a huge surprise that stimulates a short-lived surge of dopamine, right?
Right. It's the excitement and reward chemical.
Yeah.
It's a high. It's a roller coaster ride.
But the consistent small acts of emotional vulnerability, the daily check-ins, the honest admissions, those prioritize the release of a different chemical. They prioritize oxytocin.
The love hormone, oxytocin, is the social glue. It actively calms down that threat perception, it reduces amygdala activity, and it reinforces long-term pair bonding.
So while dopamine is the spectacular high, oxytocin is like the predictable, warm safety of a comfortable fireplace.
Exactly. Long-term health is built on that oxytocin-driven connection. It makes love a predictable presence, not an intermittent spectacle.
Okay, let's really unpack this. We've established EV as the foundation.
Yeah.
But let's be honest, those grand gestures still give you a massive high. They're seductive? Are we saying they're just inherently toxic? Or is it more complicated?
It's more complicated.
Wait, hold on. If someone has a terrible year and they pull off this huge grand gesture at the end of it, isn't that proof they can break their pattern? Are we saying that effort is meaningless?
That is such an important question. And no, the effort isn't meaningless, but the type of effort is what really matters. The sources suggest that grand gestures are so appealing because they provide this external proof of worth.
You must be worth all this effort, all this money.
Exactly. But the paradox is that they often function as compensation.
Compensation for what?
For emotional immaturity. For an inability to actually connect intimately. I mean, think about it. It's so much easier to spend $1,000 on a vacation or spend weeks planning a surprise than it is to sit down for 30 uncomfortable minutes and talk about financial anxiety or shame over a mistake.
So the initiator is substituting external material effort for the much harder internal emotional labor.
That's it. It becomes inherently transactional, like you're buying affection or forgiveness.
And the deeper flaw is that it sets these completely unsustainable expectations. If love is only experienced on a pedestal, in these special, costly moments, it never gets integrated into the messy, predictable rhythm of everyday life.
And the result is disillusionment, which our sources say is one of the biggest predictors of a relationship breaking down.
And we have to talk about the red flag line here, because our culture, especially movies, blurs it completely. When does romantic persistence become manipulation?
The line is crossed when it happens early, when it's excessive, or when it ignores explicit boundaries. Then it quickly becomes love bombing.
A manipulation tactic to overwhelm a partner with affection and gifts to gain control.
Yes, and we normalize terrifying behaviors in rom-coms.
The sources cite that scene in The Notebook, where Noah threatens to kill himself by dangling from a Ferris wheel until Allie agrees to a date.
It's emotional blackmail, but it's framed as romantic persistence.
It's horrifying. Or what about The Graduate? Benjamin crashes Elaine's wedding and just whisks her away.
And it's seen as destiny. But think about the pressure. He's forcing a massive life-altering decision on her in public with no time to think. The disrespect for her agency, for the commitment she was literally in the middle of making, it's invasive.
Or the cue cards in Love Actually. Mark shows up uninvited at Juliet's door, professing his love while her new husband is literally 3 feet away. We see it as romantic, but from her position. A boundary is being crossed, and she's being put in this incredibly uncomfortable, isolating spot.
Healthy love requires communication and consent, not manipulation disguised as passion.
So if we accept that grand gestures are often brittle, we have to look at what provides the real structural integrity in a relationship.
And it's not the spectacular moments.
Mhm.
Trust is nurtured slowly through small, consistent actions that demonstrate integrity and reliability over time.
Consistency is the lifeblood. We're talking about those low effort, high impact, tiny gestures that build a deep sense of safety. So, what are those daily acts?
It's the simple things the sources really emphasize.
Mm.
Basic reliability, just showing up when you say you will. It's active listening, not just when you're fighting, but when they're talking about their bad day.
It's putting your phone away, making eye contact, maybe reflecting back what you heard so they know you were listening.
Yes, that's a huge one. It's a quick text during the day. It's making love a part of the everyday, not saving it for an anniversary.
I love that idea of low effort, high impact. It's not the big trip, it's making sure the kitchen is clean on their night or the 30-second hug when you come home that resets the entire day. It's shared competence.
It is. And since nobody's perfect, we have to talk about what happens when that consistency inevitably breaks.
The importance of repair.
Exactly. We think trust requires perfection, but the sources argue the complete opposite.
That trust is built by the quality of the repair.
Yes. The crucial behavior is admitting you messed up, apologizing sincerely without getting defensive or making excuses, and then letting your actions, your accountability, speak to your remorse.
And this brings vulnerability right back into the picture, even in conflict. The sources talk about a concept called minding in relationships.
Yes, minding is that continuous effort to maintain mutual knowledge. But the key takeaway for you, the listener, is about how you interpret your partner's actions. You want what are called relationship-enhancing attributions. So when your partner does something good, you see it as part of their character. We're just a kind person.
Yeah.
But when they mess up, you see it as situational. They must have had a terrible day. They were tired.
That positive interpretation is everything. You're giving them the benefit of the doubt, and that vulnerability to assume the best is what builds the connection. So as we wrap up, we need to address the modern trap, the performance. Because genuine vulnerability is terrifying, people sometimes use a counterfeit version. What is performative vulnerability?
You can think of it as weaponized emotion. It's an ingenuine act that's motivated by a specific outcome, like getting pity, or skipping a chore, or just getting validation. It's not about genuine connection. It's the person who cries dramatically only when they want to get out of doing the dishes.
Right. And what about its cousin, performative affection?
That's about showing feelings mainly for an audience. It's crafting that perfect relationship image for social media. If the affection is super high in public, but the person is cold and distant in private, that's a huge red flag. It's performance over depth.
So if the goal is genuine depth, how do we start cultivating this really difficult skill of vulnerability? The sources offer some clear, actionable steps.
The first one is to start with self-awareness. Just practice observing and validating your own emotions. You have to remind yourself, just because something feels bad, that doesn't mean it is bad. You are safe, even if you are sad.
And then you practice something called graded exposure. You don't have to jump into the emotional deep end immediately.
No, absolutely not. Take small, manageable risks. Share a mild concern with your partner. Ask for help with something small. And you gradually increase the exposure as your confidence builds.
And critically, use plain language. Stop intellectualizing your emotions.
Yes. Don't say, I'm just stressed about the process. Say, I'm sad or I feel lonely right now. And seek out safer spaces. Therapy, counseling. The sources call it a gym for building your emotional vulnerability muscle. Practice there before you deploy it in your most high-stakes relationships.
This all really boils down to accepting that true intimacy is an internal architecture. It's built with courage, with consistency, and with these daily small acts of care, not with external spectacle.
And that open admission of difficulty, just being able to say, this is harder than I thought and I need support, that is the essential ingredient. It's the lubricant that keeps a connection from grinding to a halt when life gets hard. It really is the ultimate signal of commitment.
So the risk of emotional vulnerability is real. The risk is rejection. But remember this core truth from our sources. If you overprotect your heart, you risk shielding it not only from the lows, but from the highs too. So what small daily risk will you take today to deepen your most important connection?